nation would certainly not have worthwhile assimilation of the people. It would be a lot of separate people that aren't interested in the common interest of America.
Does that look like that might be happening in certain parts of the United States? Anybody ever traveled to South Texas or Southern California, like below San Diego?
Should we apply the same principles to current citizens in the U.S. in terms of who should be allowed to be in and not be in? If there's an argument that we don't want everybody, we want the good ones, should that also be applied to U.S. citizens? We want the good ones, but not the bad ones?
So I think when you're born here, when you're a citizen, you're a citizen. I think you have that right.
Do you happen to look at what the Bible says about the alien who lives amongst you? Brad was giving me that face like I knew that was coming from him.
So we'll talk about in the Old Testament, Nehemiah. So when he returned to Jerusalem and built it up, and he built walls around the city to protect from outside sources or forces. So that's one thing, and then there's other verses that talk about how we need to be kind to immigrants, just as the Jews were fleeing, or Israelites, whatever. But also, again, like, is that talking about a government overthrow, kind of government needs to control it, or person?
Do you know what our Kentucky representatives, whether it's this congressmen or senators, how they stand on these issues? It's okay to say no.
Yeah. I have a general idea, but I can't say. I'd say Mitch McConnell led he's Senate Majority Leader of the Republicans, so he led the deal that was trying to be put in place between Republicans and Democrats to enshrine DACA and the process end chain migration, get funding for the wall, obviously that didn't go through. So.
Why is that such an important trade-off, Adam, politically? What's the argument for why you need to trade DACA for ending chain migration, funding the wall, those sorts of things? There's a very interesting balance between those two.
Well, first of all, border wall funding, I think, all right, Trump has championed the border wall. I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's super important, but
right.
It's good. But the main thing is chain migration, because chain migration, basically, when one person comes into the country, they can bring their family with them, essentially. And that brings in a lot of people that aren't necessarily vetted, that don't necessarily have the credentials that one person has. And I think it's really creating a lot of unneeded migration to America. That they should all have to go through the process. I think there's an argument to be made for children coming in with a person or their spouse, but I don't think like the person's uncle needs to come in with them.
Okay.
One of the arguments against about that is Akkad Ullah. He set off a pipe bomb in the corridor of the Times Square subway station in December, and he was an immigrant through chain migration.
Do you think he is is he a common immigrant, or is he kind of an exception to the rule, would you think? I mean, how many people do we have setting off pipe bombs in New York City that are illegal immigrants?
Well, I mean, you could say that, but also there are, other instances. I didn't really research that much about that, but
The exception.
The exception, not the rule.
Certain
Okay.
cities.
I know Dawson pretty well, so I'm going to go down to you guys because I don't know you very well. Explain to me a little bit what I was talking to Adam about, the trade-off of DACA versus ending chain migration and specifically funding the border wall. What has been the political argument for why, if you make DACA permanent law, as in not an executive order anymore, why you have to have those other things as a part of the trade-off? What's the argument that's being made for why the wall is important, why ending chain migration? We talked about chain migration, so really the wall.
Well, with the wall and any chain migration, we'd be able to know exactly who's coming into the country. And we'd be able to evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. Like, for example, the guy who came in through chain migration, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have let him through if we'd have evaluated him on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
so, but like So through DACA, we know that they're going to school or whatever. With the border crossing, we don't know like who's all coming across or whatever. And just in March, there was about 37,000 people across the border. I don't know how they came up with that estimation, but I mean, that's what I found. So if you say that like for 10 months, you're up to 370,000, and that's not even a full year yet. So over time, it could just continue to grow and grow, and that's why we say there's over 11 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. now.
DACA covers children who were brought here illegally by their parents. What about children who come here without their parents? Are you familiar with that, with parents literally put their young kids on a bus and send them to America? So, I mean, it's okay if you're not familiar with it, but, I mean, should there be a difference?
There isn't a difference. The way that DACA reads doesn't say anything about parents.
So if you, a parent, you send your child here, then they would qualify for the protection.
If they were able to apply, obviously, I guess the question would be how would they, get in a position to have $495 and
Right,
be in high
they're
school.
clearly not going to be able to do it when they're 6 years old and first get here, assuming that the United States lets them stay. But, I mean, there have been examples where just groups of young children have just been sent here because their parents can't get here legally, and they're assuming that the United States isn't going to turn away children.
So to Mrs. Eiler's point, have we seen fluctuations in migration, illegal migration in particular, during the course of this DACA discussion or during the midst of the political, I guess the election recently, switching parties? What have we seen at the borders? And what's been the United States' response to what we've seen at the borders?
I don't have the exact numbers.
Okay.
They might be trying to find it. But I know last year it was down quite a bit. This year it's risen, not to the extent of like the Obama administration years, but it has. Last year it was kind of a quote unquote exception.
Okay, so last year it was down. Why do we think that?
There's more talk about deportation and stuff like that. So.
You could say Trump's rhetoric may have shied some away.
Okay.
Not necessarily knows that that's what we see.
And what's been the United States response to the recent uptick in illegal immigration at the border? And I'm talking about just in the last 2 months, maybe. Have we responded? What have we done?
Remember, there was the caravan of immigrants that was coming up here, and then Trump basically said that we're going to turn them away if they come here. And the Mexican president basically got on that and got them to turn back.
There wasn't, because I think it's actually happening
I think
today,
today.
isn't it?
Yeah,
I think,
today.
I think they showed up at the front door today.
There's about
Back door.
300,
South door. Yep.
300 that showed up.
Okay.
But there was like 1,000. So now it's down to about 300.
So when they show up at the border, what are they seeing? How are they being received? What's going on right now at the border?
I don't think we really researched that, but I just saw like on Twitter or something that Californians were praising them and clapping for them, trying to get here. So
as of right now, as of a few days ago, they were bringing them in small groups. I only know 2 groups have come in so far. They brought in 10. They're giving them assignments right now. And then they brought in another group of 8. They're working on it.
I think we're talking about that one.